Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dirty Martini. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're having an amazing day. I am super excited and also a little bit scared about today's episode because currently it is 11, meaning that I am recording during the day. And the only reason I can do this, because you all know I usually record at 2 a.m., but the only reason I am able to do this now is because I am in Bulgaria finally for the summer. Well, I'm here only for a few weeks now. And here I don't have to be as cautious with surround sounds and being mindful of housemates, cooking and toilet going and whatnot. Because here I actually have the ability to go to a different place and record. And I also live in a village. I am not surrounded by, well, I have loud neighbors, but they're a bit further away. So as of now, it appears to be a good time to record. And I'm a little bit anxious because I've actually never recorded during the day. And I'm scared that I'll lose my sparkle. And the sparkle in question literally being insomnia and just my 2 a.m. thoughts. But we'll see how it goes. If I feel like it's so anti Dirty Martini like, I will just keep recording at 2 a.m. despite me being in Bulgaria. But as of now, let's just give it a try. So, guys, I am officially home for the summer again, just for a few weeks now. And I have a story to tell you, of course, about the traveling experience, what it was like. And if you're sick and tired of me telling you my travel experiences every single time I have to fly to Bulgaria, imagine how tired we are. Just imagine how tired we are. The person who has to actually experience it. But let's start with something else and leave the traveling experience for a little bit later in today's episode. So I'm super excited because now I have had a few days of just no alarms being set, going to bed. Well, I've been going to bed rather early because I've just been exhausted, and now I can just rest, and that is amazing. Sure, I will have stuff to do from Monday onwards, but I just told everyone around me, don't reach out. I do not exist. I'm not here until Monday. Until Monday, I am just only going to breathe, sleep, eat, repeat. And I have only been doing this. I've been mindlessly scrolling on Instagram with no guilt. I've been reading books and it just feels so good because now actually I have energy and I have the desire to live. So, books. I was super excited to come back and start lending books from the local library because I've been missing reading books in Bulgarian because I've been consuming content, be it literature, be it movies, be it TV series, be it music, anything. I've predominantly been consuming content in English, and I feel like I need some time off from my second language, which apparently now I also well, I'm not sure I dream in English, but I slept at a friend's place the first evening and she told me I sleep talked in English, which is rather weird because I remember when I was sharing a room with my Romanian friend, and Bulgarian and Romania speak different languages. Respectively, we speak Bulgarian and Romanian, which you would be surprised how many people don't know, and how many people in the Netherlands, especially. I had this one instance when there was like a homeless guy, and after work I was just like, you know what, I'll just give him food from the place I work at. And there was police trying to get rid of that homeless guy, and they were not happy with me giving him food because they told me I'm just contributing to the problem rather than its solution. And then they asked me if I could help them communicate with him, and the guy showed me his passport and he was Romanian, which is rather interesting that this, like, what I've noticed is that a lot of Romanians just carry their passports rather than IDs, which their IDs are massive, but apparently nobody from the West can read the Romanian ID the way it's laid out. So it's easier for some of my friends to just carry their passports instead of just explaining how to read a Romanian ID. I don't know, I haven't paid too much attention to it. Doesn't matter. And the police was just like, yeah, he's from Romania. Don't you speak the same language as him? Because they asked me where I'm from. And yeah, you would be surprised the lack of knowledge people have about Eastern Europe, which actually I don't think you would be surprised. I think that's unfortunately expected and the norm, which is so sad because they're missing out on a lot of culture and a lot of diversity and a lot of history and just a lot of colorfulness. But yeah, so when I was sharing a room with my Romanian friend and we were sleeping on the same bed, and well, she's the type of person who goes to bed at 5 a.m. and I'm the type of person who goes to bed at 2 or 3 a.m. So she went to bed later than me. And when she walked in to get ready for bed, she just turned on the lights and started looking into her suitcase for something that she needed. And I just remember waking up, but very vaguely. I don't remember being fully conscious. I just remember vaguely the situation of me talking to her, very passionately talking to her. And I just remember her looking at me in disbelief and just confusion. And then she left the room and didn't come back for another hour. And then in the morning, I was like, hey, I remember I talked to you. What did I say? Because I don't remember. She was like, you were talking in Bulgarian. I have no clue what you said. And I was like, did I? Because like you walked in and you woke me up. Did I by any chance say something that resembled something like Maika Tistaga? And she was like, this is exactly what you said. And I was like, oh, I am sorry. And for the non-Bulgarian speakers, that basically means your old mom. And I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but the thing is, in the way in the Netherlands, they use a lot of illnesses to curse. Like they use cancer, they use a lot of syndromes to curse at people. In the Balkans, we use mothers because the mother is arguably one of the most, if not the most important person in someone's life. And we feel like this will be where the biggest punch can be served. So all of our harshest insults contain mothers and what we would do to them. This is extremely sexist, I know. I feel like I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's just yeah, I whatever. And then I remember the evening after, I again was talking to my friend, but I was talking for like a solid 10 minutes. And I just remember because, again, I was like half asleep. I didn't know where I was, I didn't know who I was. And I just, in a second, gained full consciousness and turned to her. And I was like, what language did I speak to you up until now? And she was like, you spoke to me in Bulgarian. So I've always wondered what language I sleep talk in, because I apparently sleep talk a lot, which is rather concerning. But I feel like I sleep talk only when I'm anxious, and I'm anxious when I have to sleep next to someone because I always want them to be comfortable. And I'm always like, oh, I hope I don't like kick them. I hope I don't punch them. I hope I don't steal their blanket. So I'm super, super anxious. And I feel like this is where that side of me shines. And now apparently I've started sleep talking in English, and I don't know even what language I dream in, which is rather interesting because I've heard that you have fully mastered a language when you start dreaming in it. But I have also dreamt in German before, and I know it was German. I know I understood it, but do I think it was actual German? I don't think so. So it's interesting, and since that day, since my friend told me I sleep talked in English, I've been trying to be mindful in my sleeps and decipher what language I'm dreaming in, because I think that's super, super interesting. And I'm always so worried when I come back in Bulgaria for a longer period of time and that I haven't been here for, like, let's say a few months, and I've exclusively been speaking in English or like a different language. And I speak Bulgarian only for 10 minutes a day when I talk to my parents in the evening. And I'm always so worried that I will just sound rather posh and I will not be able to speak Bulgarian without any English words, which I think is so, so cringe. And I'm trying so hard not to use any English words when I'm speaking in Bulgarian, but sometimes I genuinely cannot find the equivalent. Or if I try explaining the equivalent, people think that I'm sounding super posh and think too much of myself, when genuinely, and this sounds so silly because, like, but then I think about it and I'm like, well, I've lived abroad for 4 years. It is normal that, especially when my entire existence there is in English and I create art in English, I consume art in English, I work in English, I study in English, I just exist in English, and I every now and then speak in Bulgarian. I feel like it's normal that sometimes I just approach situations in English. And this is what happened actually when I was on the plane and I just fell asleep. And because it was a flight during the day, so I had put down the shades of the window. And when we were landing, the flight attendant came to wake me up to put up the blinds, which I don't know why it's done. I don't know how that's contributing to safety, but whatever. Who am I to argue with someone who's actually on the job and knows what they're doing? And she woke me up in Bulgarian, and I immediately started speaking in English. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm Bulgarian. I don't know why I spoke in English. So it's interesting. And I was talking to a friend recently, and I've been thinking, if, let's say, I come back to Bulgaria tomorrow, like for good, and my social circle is Bulgarian, will I ever forget English? And that friend told me that I most likely will not, because, well, first of all, the podcast is in English, but also I've been so highly and deeply immersed in the language that it's very unlikely of me to forget it. And it would be so cool if I'm like 80 something years old and I'm able to speak a few languages, because that is not super common where I come from because of, communism. Because education there then looked significantly different compared to what education looks now when it comes to exposure to different cultures, different languages and whatnot. Because during communism, as you can probably imagine, the language that was being taught in schools was not English the way it is now. Like, your first foreign language is not English, it was Russian. So I'm just like very interested to see if I stopped practicing English today, if that would affect my English knowledge in the long term. Because sure, I have not been practicing German for a few years now, but still, like, if I lock in and I'm in the zone, I can communicate in German. Sure, maybe not as good as I could back then, but still I remember certain stuff. And it's just interesting. Languages will never ever make sense to me, and I just think they're so, so fascinating, especially when it's someone who, like me, uses a different alphabet in their first, like in their native language compared to the other languages they speak. I just think it's so fascinating how we humans are able to comprehend, memorize, and utilize different alphabets, which are also man-made, which were not created in nature, but just people came up with them. So you can just embrace different alphabets, different languages, and communicate with them. And what is so interesting to me is that sometimes in different languages, my personality is different, and I feel like I sound different in different languages, which, and I don't mean accent wise, I mean like my voice, it's just, for example, in Bulgarian, I feel like it's deeper compared to when I'm speaking in English. And in German, it's somewhat in the middle. And in Dutch, when I'm trying to speak, it's super, super high because I'm highly insecure when I have to speak in Dutch. But that is just the fascination of linguistics. And it's just stunning. I love, like, people who have studied linguistics, guys, we are in the same boat. Both of us are unemployed, most likely. But I just think the thing you studied is absolutely fascinating. And I would love to learn more about it. But the thing I wanted to say about reading books in Bulgarian, which is where all of this started, oh my god, this is a complete mess, but who cares? We're having fun, guys. We have rested, we're not sleep deprived as of yet, and that is just great. So, the books I lent from the library are four teen romance book talk type of books and one marketing centered book because, I feel like if I'm not constantly studying, I don't know who I am because I've mentioned this before. I've only known myself as a student in my entire conscious life. And if I don't study constantly, I feel lost, which guys, just stay tuned for next year when I graduate, hopefully, from my master and I no longer have anything academic to look forward to or to give me structure. That is when the real deal is going to start. But now I started first reading Red, White, and Royal Blue. And I know there was a movie. I haven't seen the movie because the thing is, if a book has been turned into a movie, I would first like to read the book and then watch the movie because I feel like there's a lot of context that might be missing in the movie that the book would provide, and you would just have a fuller experience if you compared to if you were only to consume one type of medium that told you the story, which is why, honestly, when I first watched The Hunger Games after reading the books, I was a little bit, I wouldn't say disappointed because the movies are really, really good, but especially the first movie when it came to, because if you've read the books and like, spoiler alert, but like also those books came out like what, more than a decade ago. Um, in the first book, there's a lot of emphasis put on uh Katniss's dad's death and how it affected the family and how the family dynamics changed and Katniss became who she is now, like the caretaker of the family because of her dad's death. And her dad's death in the book was very detailed in how it happened, how it affected, and I feel like this was rather overlooked in the movies, and I feel like it's such an important part to understand the character development of Katniss. So when it comes to books and movies, I always have preferred reading the books over watching the movies. But I'm the type of person who, when I read a book, I can visualize stuff, which I know certain people cannot, and they can just read books and cannot watch the book they're reading as a movie in their head. I thankfully am able to visualize them. But the thing is, when it comes to, imagining the person who is the character in the book, I sometimes struggle when it comes to coming up with faces because I don't know if you guys know this, but your brain is unable to create human faces. And if, let's say, in your dream you see someone who you think is a stranger, that person is not a stranger. You probably saw them in passing when you were walking down the street or you were at an event or whatever. You saw them. Your brain is unable to create human faces from scratch. And it just retains information from faces you have encountered, and that's why those strangers come into your dreams. They're not strangers, they're not made up people. Well, now we will see when it comes to made up people, or when it comes to their creation and generation with AI, and how this would affect our perception of human features and human faces and our exposure to authenticity and realness in humanity. But that is a topic for another time, and I feel like we touched upon it last week as well. And what I wanted to say is that when a book has been turned into a movie, I find it super easy when it comes to picturing the characters because I just picture the actors, which is so easy. And I just find it far more convenient to do this than have to come up with the design of a face that I perhaps have encountered, perhaps don't remember encountering, or just mixing features from people I have encountered to come up with the character's image in my brain as I'm reading. So I just imagine the actors, which shout out to whoever the actors are. I don't remember their names. I'm very sorry, but like I also have not seen the movie. So once I read the book, I am going to watch the movie. uh, I only started reading that book the day before yesterday, so I am barely 200 pages in. And what I wanted to say is that the characters, well, spoiler alert, the characters kissed on page 100. And I just love it when a chapter ends on page 100. I feel like it gives a sense of completion and it's so oddly satisfying. And that's, or like let's say it ends on page 99 and the new chapter starts on page 100. This is just perfection to me. And I just, if I don't think books should be published if their chapter, whatever chapter it is, doesn't end on page 100 or page 99 and the new chapter is starting on page 100. I just feel like this is something that would bring a lot of perfectionists a lot of peace and joy, but also art is not created to give you peace and joy. Art is not created for the masses, for the public. Art is created for the artist. So if you as an artist feel like your chapter should end on page 107, then you do you, boo. Who am I to judge? I'm just a consumer. Now, here's the thing. I cannot comment fully on the story yet because I have not finished it, but here's what I'm going to say up until now. That book, that story is not necessarily the type of slow burn romance novels that I like because I love me a slow burn. I love me an enemies to lovers. We can talk about what this means about my commitment issues later, but I just love a slow burn. And I feel like when the book itself is 400 pages and the slow burn ends on page 100, then I don't feel like that's that slow of a burn as I would personally enjoy. And here's the thing. It's because like, okay, this might be a controversial topic and this might be something that we as a society may not be ready to talk about yet, but I feel like I love a slow burn because I don't subscribe to hookup culture. And no shame if you do. All power to you. Go do whatever you want with your body, do whatever you want with your sexuality. I feel like nowadays more emphasis is put on lust over love, and intimacy is so desacralized, which if this is something that brings you joy, go for it. It is not something that I personally align with, but here I am. I am entitled to my perception of intimacy, of love, of lust, and so are you. And your exercise of love, lust, and intimacy is not jeopardizing mine. They can coexist. And you, for example, subscribing to hookup culture and going and doing whatever does not diminish the importance of my experiences and does not mean that one's experience is better than the other or that one's experience is valid and the other's is invalid. It is about personal values, personal perceptions, personal beliefs, and understandings. So I feel like today, though, there is this rather desacralization of intimacy. And again, no shame. If it is just that it is the way I see it, intimacy, being intimate with someone is the closest you can get to a person when it comes to physical connection, when it comes to I don't know, emotional bonding, when it comes to expression of love. Because, well, there's different types of expression of love, but like this is the peak physical expression of love. And nowadays, I feel like, from what I've noticed from people around me, it has just turned into a game of numbers rather than a devotion of feelings. And that's, again, okay. If this is how you perceive things, that is okay. But this is just something I feel like really devalues intimacy. Because the thing is, physical needs are physical needs. I get that. There's no shame in the game, but emotions shall not be ignored, I feel like. And what I've noticed is rather pronounced in the city I live in the Netherlands, because, well, it is a predominantly a student city. And in a student city, aka, like, that is, commitment is a sin. It is a deadly sin. And it's just, it makes you question a lot of things. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying that, well, both are rather different, and they're two different ends of the spectrum of relationships, of commitment, of love, of intimacy. And I think they should coexist. I'm all pro for you having your hot, whatever gender you identify with, summer. I just, I don't know, like the way my parents raised me, and sometimes I genuinely think, damn, they shouldn't have raised me the way they did, because now at times when I'm in the Netherlands, I genuinely feel like an outcast, and I feel rather misunderstood in the larger social community, because this mentality in this city where hookup culture is put on a pedestal is rather shadowed. But then I think about it and I'm like, I'm glad they brought me up the way they did, because I put value in human emotions, human relationships, and do not devalue intimacy. Because again, I get it, needs are needs, but I feel like we humans, whether we like to downplay it, whether we like to emphasize it, we are emotional beings by nature. Everybody has feelings. Sure, they may take different shape and form, but everybody has them. And emotions, just like when your body is exhausted, they will not beg you to feel them. They will demand it. So to give your body a break when, let's say, you have overworked yourself, and you do not give your body that break that it needs, your body is going to take that break from, let's say, shutting off, you becoming sick, you hurting yourself. Your body is going to give you signals, and if you keep ignoring them, it is going to demand its right to rest. And the same, I feel like, is applicable when it comes to emotions. You may ignore them, you may express them in a different feeling, you may fully just desensitize yourself to your emotions, but your feelings will demand to be felt, and to be felt passionately to the largest capacity. And the more you ignore them, the harsher the conditions under which you will have to deal with them will be. And this, I think, is highly applicable when it comes to intimacy and sex, and the fact that, and I'm not saying that, I feel like now I'm somewhat propagating monogamy, which is not the case. Like, if monogamy is not for you and you feel like you're polyamorous, or you don't even want to put a label on it, that's totally okay. I am no one to tell you what to do with your sexuality, with your body. You do you. You do whatever feels good for you. I just personally have observed how people who subscribe, let's say, to hookup culture with the chance, with the hope to ignore their feelings, end up feeling their feelings in a way that hurts them more compared to if they were to feel that feeling in the first place. Doesn't matter. That's enough on my take on hookup culture, because I feel like I actually didn't say anything productive, and I don't want to. I feel like I'm walking on very thin ice because, again, this is like quite a controversial topic. So let's just switch to what life has been giving me lately. So yesterday, my dog, when she was trying to greet me, like I was, oh my god, Orca, come here, blah 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 blah. She jumped and her teeth yanked my nose, and now she ripped the skin off of my nose's bridge, and I could not get it to stop bleeding for 40 minutes. And when I tell you that this hurts like a bitch, please trust me, because I have lathered it in so much medication now because I really, really don't want to have the scar in the middle of my face. But when I, for example, lean or like turn to the side, I feel like all the blood rushes into my nose and it just starts pulsing, or whatever the verb is. And I'm just in ungodly pain. And it's just so crazy because this dog, I love her. I know she loves me, but I feel like sometimes she's rather clumsy in her love. And with this clumsiness, she literally now has broken my lip, has broken my gums, well, with her teeth. Like, she just jumps to lick me on the face, but like she cannot, I guess, necessarily calculate the height to which she has to jump or the force with which she has to jump. And she always yanks her teeth in my face. So her tooth once just like ripped open one of my gums. She broke my tooth. And now with this, and this genuinely, since yesterday, I have had a headache because the pain is so overwhelming, and it's such a tiny little scratch. It's what, like 5 milliliters, but it's rather deep. And it's so crazy how such a small thing can just affect my overall well-being now, because my head has not stopped aching since yesterday, since the crash, so to speak. And at a certain point, I'm like, she only does this to me. She has never, ever hurt anyone else. And of course, I know she doesn't do it intentionally. She's just so full of energy and excited to see me that she just jumps when she sees me. And this is the result. But at a certain point, I'm like, girl, is this purposeful? Is this something you have against me? Because I would very much like to keep my face as is. Thank you very much. Um, but yeah, I have been home for 3, 4 days now, and it is just so nice. And I managed to see two of my friends, the one whose place I slept at, and my literal best friend since I was a child. And I don't think I'll be able to hang out with a lot of people now because the academic here in Bulgaria, when it comes to universities, starts a month later than the one in the Netherlands. So people are just now starting to enter their exam periods. So it is going to be, well, a bit of a at least chiller month, and I can just, finish work, get home, and just chill. But I'm excited for when my friends' exams finish and I can hopefully see them, if any of them choose to come back in our hometown, because the capital has been stealing people from me, which is totally understandable. And you know what's something that I always have as a reverse, I wouldn't say cultural shock, but something that always makes an impression when I come back home after having been in the West for a bit. So when I stayed at my friend's place in Sofia, and the day after, we just went out for brunch. And on our way to the brunch place, we saw this microphone and just in general voice recording and music instruments store in Sofia. And I saw they had on their window that they are the official or unofficial ambassador of this brand of microphone that I've been interested in. And I went inside just to see if they have the microphone and if I can take a look at it, because the second, guys, literally the second I saved up enough money to buy the microphone, they raised the price because, of course. So I feel like at this point, I might as well just wait for Black Friday, because I'm in Bulgaria. I only traveled with a carry-on. I don't have space for my clothes, let alone for a microphone. And that microphone is quite big. So we'll see how that goes. But I went inside to look for the microphone. The microphone looks really, really good. So not to edge you too much, but guys, we are on the right track. And I just remember when I went inside and I talked to the guy, and it was like an older man. He was probably in his 60s. And I asked him, "Oh, so which microphone would you recommend? This one, which is the one I was planning on purchasing, or this one, which I know every single podcaster I see uses it, but that microphone is 2 months worth of rent, hence I cannot afford it." So he was like, "Well, you know what they say, they're going to greet you by the type of clothes you wear, but they're going to send you away by your brain," which is this sort of an expression in Bulgaria. And he just started ranting from there. Didn't answer my question. Up until today, I don't know which microphone he would recommend, but he started telling me the story of his cousin's wife, or his cousin's like customer. I couldn't really get if they're married or not, but she was an opera singer who sang in München, and he was just ranting on and on about how his cousin was there and he had to arrange a Mercedes S class or whatever it's called in English. I genuinely don't know. And how this was during communist times, so you had to wait months to get a car. But because she was the opera singer, the it girl of opera back then, they arranged a car in 3 days, because it's absolutely unacceptable for the main star to arrive in the type of car she arrived. And how, because it was communism, they charged him like 15% in customs. And he went on and on and on about telling me every single detail of the story. And in moments like these, I'm like, welcome to Bulgaria, because this is something you would never ever be able to experience in the West. Because I feel like in the West, the customer employee transactions are exactly that, transactions. It's not a relationship the way it is here, because I feel like here people don't have this, and if you're offended, I'm sorry, don't have this fake politeness when it comes to customer service. In the East, you will know when someone who's helping you likes you or not. You can very, very much tell. And for example, I knew that man liked me and my friend because he kept on talking to us and talking and talking and talking. And then actual customers walked in the store, and they were asking for his help to see which instrument they would like to buy, because they genuinely wanted to invest money into buying a proper product. And he was like, yeah, I'll help you in a little bit. And he just stood with us for another 5 minutes telling us the story. And that is, again, something you would never see anywhere in the West, I feel like, because people here, there's just no hierarchy when it comes to employee customer. And this, of course, may be great, it may be bad, depends on the situation, but it's, oh my god, guys, if you want to see what exactly I mean, if let's say you ever get a chance to visit Bulgaria, which I totally think you should, because it's absolutely stunning and has so much culture to offer, get in a taxi. Just get in a taxi and tell the driver, man, they really messed up the country. Tell them Съсипаха я тая държава. Because this is literally the cue for taxi drivers that they can start ranting and they can literally give you an hour-long lecture about politics despite them not knowing anything about politics. But that is just the culture. That is the Bulgarian experience when it comes to being in a taxi. And that's why I feel like Uber is struggling to catch up here, because taxis just offer you an experience. And if you don't want to be chatty, if you don't want to talk to your driver when you're in a taxi, then just walk, because there's no way you're not going to get a chatty taxi driver. And taxi drivers in Bulgaria are just revolutionary, because if you think that Tesla revolutionized the car industry with its literal tablets that it installed in the car, I'm sorry, babe. Bulgarian taxi drivers did it first. They've been having screens like touch screen, small screens in their cars since I was a child. And they're just, when you enter, they just start blasting the most questionable chalga, which is this pop folk genre, or they're blasting a Turkish drama TV series. And it's just, Tesla could never. Of course, sometimes they also stream porn, but that is a topic for another time. It's just, taxi drivers are this very interesting stratus of people, and I feel like when it comes to their application process, when it comes to the requirements, they literally have to put political expert that will never shut up, and that they are willing to just provide a proper experience to their customers. And how is this any different from what I'm doing now? Well, I'm just not driving, and I'm not charging you 100,000 level for just getting into my car, but that's all right. So wait, speaking of customer service in the East and the West, I need to tell you about this certain thing that happened when I was at work last week. So, I've told you before, I work in a fast food chain, and it wasn't a busy day. It was so dead, which I love it because I still get paid the same and I'm just doing far less work than normal, because overall I overwork myself, because you know what, this is a topic I don't know if I'm legally allowed to speak about, although my boss, when I talked to them, they were like, as long as you don't mention the name of the company, you're good. But still, I'd rather not risk it. Risk it all for the biscuit. Doesn't matter. So I work at this fast food place, and the menu is quite overwhelming. There's a lot of choice, and it was super dead. No customers whatsoever. And a guy and a girl walk in, and the guy orders, and then the girls is just looking, and she's like, yeah, sorry, I don't know what I want. And I'm like, oh my god, girl, don't worry, take your time. If you need any recommendations, just let me know. And she just keeps reading the menu, and I think I can assume it was her first time being in that place. So the menu is genuinely super overwhelming, especially if this is your first time encountering it. You need like at least a solid few minutes just to skim through it, let alone actually making a proper choice. And that guy every minute kept on pressuring her, choose, come on, we don't have the entire day, come on, choose, this is so embarrassing, no one is going to sit around and wait for you. And I was just, the woman was too stunned to speak. I felt so bad for the girl. Like, girl, leave your boyfriend. Leave your boyfriend. Leave your husband. Leave him, because he made her nearly cry, and he got his food, and she just felt so pressured because he kept on pressuring her that she just like was on the verge of crying, and she ended up not ordering, which I personally don't give a shit about. But it's just like, may this type of love never find me, because I myself am a bit indecisive when it comes to me choosing food. And how are you supposed to make a stance in anything about anything in that relationship, or do anything you related, if your presence is judged constantly or perceived as embarrassing. Like, girl, I will be praying for you. I just, like, she left, she had tears in her eyes, and I'm like, girl, I could be a better boyfriend than him. I know the bar is in hell, but I could be a better boyfriend than him, whatever Dove Cameron said. Because this, you being unable to choose is not embarrassing. Him treating you like this is embarrassing. And I am wishing you all the strength to walk away and find someone who is going to respect your indecisiveness and guide you through it rather than judge you about it, because you deserve so much better. And I just wanted to say something back then and there, but it's not my place, of course, because who am I to speak on other people's relationships? So I literally just did. But oh my God, girl, you've been in my thoughts since that moment happened. And if you're by any chance ever listening to this, I hope you found someone better, because there's no him becoming better for you. Like, this is full on disrespect, and I hate this for you, and I'll be praying for you. But now let's just quickly go over what my travel experience was like, guys. So, you know, up until this point, you guys have heard me talk about my travel experience rather a lot. And you probably know that I am not necessarily lucky when it comes to traveling from the Netherlands to Bulgaria. And this time, unfortunately, was no exception. So when I was booking my flight, I was like, you know what? Let this time, for the first time ever, let me buy the more expensive later flight. Let me book that one, because I deserve to sleep in a little bit and then travel rather than do my regular traveling during the evening, during the night type of activity. Let's do that. So, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not anxious at all. I'm like, oh, I can sleep and then travel and just have a pleasant experience. And then, of course, as the date of my trip approached, strikes started happening. Strikes, national strikes with the railroads. And they were speaking about a national train strike the day before I was supposed to travel. But then they started talking about a national train strike the day I was supposed to travel. But everything was up in the air. The talk started happening a week before me traveling. So what I ended up doing was, just in case, I decided to book a Flixbus from where I live to Eindhoven, which is where the airport is from where I fly, because it's cheaper than the Amsterdam one. Although now, with the low budget airlines being more expensive than the Royal Dutch Airline, I think I might start just flying from Schiphol. And I booked a bus just to have, a safe option if, God forbid, there are train strikes, because even if I could go and stay at a friend's place, there were no buses from that where my friend lives to where the airport is. So the day before the trip, there's no information about the strikes. And I'm like, okay, does that mean that they're canceled? Does that mean that they're going to happen? So I, of course, call customer service, because apparently nowadays I'm just ballsy like that and I call customer service for anything, which, I mean, obviously that's what they're there for. And they tell me, well, a strike has not been announced, so I don't expect it to happen. And I ask her, well, if a strike has not been announced, does that mean that there is no chance of them simply not showing up to work? And she was like, well, I would never say never, but this is not usually how the union operates. So I would say the chance of a strike is very unlikely. And an hour later, I received a notification from the Dutch railroad company that there is indeed a strike. And so my flight was at 2:30, which means that I have to be at the airport around 1, which means, and I live a 3.5 hour train ride from Eindhoven, and then from the train station to the airport is another 30 minutes. So let's say 4 hours, meaning that I can leave at 9 from my city, which means that I can sleep until 7:30ish, 8. Now, with this, I had to utilize the Flixbus trip, which meant, because there's of course no direct buses from my town to Eindhoven, I had to get to Amsterdam, have a 3-hour stop, and from there go to Eindhoven. But the thing is, what usually is a 3.5-hour train ride now ended up being 7.5-hour bus ride. And so at 3:30 a.m., I had to leave my place with my 20-kilo luggage, carry it for an hour to get to the bus station from where I was supposed to catch my bus. Because of course at 3 a.m. there's no public transport, and a taxi would have ended up being as much as my flight back home. So I ended up walking, and I'm carrying stuff. Now my back is killing me, and so is my ankle. So guys, do as I say, not as I do. But I was literally cornered and I had no other option, and I was so fucking anxious about the entire experience because, well, first of all, the Air India flight, may everybody who passed away rest in peace. And just in general, I was anxious because there were a lot of things up in the air, a lot of uncertainties, a lot of X's to be found. And last time I traveled with Flixbus is, I think I told you about, is when I went to see 21 Pilots in Hamburg, and Flixbus was more than 4 hours late. And if it was delayed even by an hour, I would miss my flight, which would suck severely. So I went to bed for 3 hours, and I woke up every 10 minutes with this hardly resistible urge to puke my brains out from anxiety. It was not pleasant, guys, just not pleasant. And I had barely eaten anything the prior days because I've been telling you, like, I've only been surviving on cherries up until I came back here, and it was just not the vibe at all. So I get on the Flixbus and I get to Amsterdam, and there's literally no transport that can take me from Amsterdam Sloterdijk to Amsterdam Centraal, which is where I was planning on going to just, kill a few hours, because I had a 3-hour stop. So I was like, might as well, even though it's 7 a.m. and there's nothing open, I can just enjoy Amsterdam. Because Amsterdam, I know I've been saying that Amsterdam is not enjoyable, but Amsterdam is enjoyable when it's empty. And at 7 a.m. on a weekday, Amsterdam is empty. So I found this single intercity train that took me from Sloterdijk to Centraal. And I was like, you know what? I'll just sit on a bench by the canal and just, enjoy a little bit of rest before I have to head back to Sloterdijk. And I couldn't do that because we all know me. And with my 20-kilo luggage, I walked through all the cobblestone in Amsterdam, which is aka every single street. And I went to Anne Frank's house because why not? I didn't necessarily, well, I saw the museum. I'm not sure I saw the exact house. I've never been inside. I've never seen it, but I was like, I've lived here for 4 years. I have to see the Anne Frank house. And so yeah, then I headed back to the Sloterdijk station, and from there I was supposed to catch the bus to Eindhoven, and the bus was a little bit late, and I was getting very anxious. But we get to Eindhoven, and it drops us off not at the train station, but a 10-minute walk from the train station. And again, guys, I'm carrying 20 kilos of luggage, so those 10 minutes take a bit longer. And literally as I get to the train station and get to the stop, like I'm 5 meters away from the stop where the bus to the airport goes, the bus leaves. And I have to wait for the next one, which was more than 15 minutes late. And I arrived at the airport literally as boarding started, which was a bit anxiety inducing because I still had to go through security and whatnot. And also when the bus driver from the train station to the airport was driving, he utilized those brakes as if he had never used brakes before, and I literally landed on top of some guy, and I've never felt more embarrassed in my life. I literally just like fell on him. So shout out Bessie, I'm super duper sorry. That was embarrassing, but whatnot. Like, if I was like a delusional your name romance type of person, I would be like, oh, this is the beginning of a romance novel. Doesn't matter. I get on the train, on the plane. Of course, before I got on there, they pulled me away for extra inspection of my luggage, because this is literally what they do every single time. And at this point, I'm like, guys, I know I'm from the East, but that doesn't mean I steal. Come on. And I get on the plane and I have a window seat, and in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I usually prefer aisle. I've talked about this a lot, but I can lean on the window and just fall asleep. I couldn't, because the little devil behind me in child form, was kicking my seat for an hour, kicking, pushing, shaking, whatnot. And I am not usually confrontational when it comes to that type of stuff, but my back was killing me from carrying all the luggage. And now this was just the cherry on top. So I turn around and I see its mom. Like, the child was window seat, the mom was in the middle seat carrying a baby, and another child was on the aisle seat. And I'm like, oh my god, girl, like, I'm so sorry that I have to do this, but could you please keep an eye that they don't kick my seat? And so the mom stopped the child from kicking my seat, which was the biggest mistake I've ever made, because for the next 2.5 hours, that child did not stop crying. But I mean, like, crying. If I can, I will insert a clip now. Yes. And then, because, the baby heard that its sibling is crying, so it started crying as well. And I was like, oh my god, this is such an amazing advertisement of condoms. What, Durex, please use this as an advertisement, because, and I'm sorry, I know this is rather insensitive, and the only thing I felt like, the only person I felt bad about was the mom, because it's not her fault. It's literally not her fault. She cannot control them. Like, she can tell the child stop crying, but like, if the child feels like crying, it's going to cry. And I just felt bad for her. And women can do anything. No one can tell me shit. Women are the superheroes of humanity, because come on. So then the mom gave the child a a car toy to play with, so that it stops crying. And the child just started yanking the car in my seat, and I was like, what have I done to deserve this? And I know, now it's a story to tell on the podcast. So wow, how amazing. And it's a story to tell on Graham Norton in 10 years time, even less, in 5 years time. But come on, I promise you, my life may not be as interesting, but I still will find podcast stories to tell, this, even if this were not to happen to me. So please, God, please, universe, I don't want this to happen to me anymore. I want a comfortable experience when traveling. And of course, in the first 10 minutes of me being in Bulgaria, when I got on the shuttle bus, I nearly got into a car crash, but that unfortunately is Bulgaria for you. And then, so I left for my hometown the day after, and there was a severe traffic jam. And so if I left on Tuesday 3:30 a.m. from my place in the Netherlands, I arrived in my home at almost 10 p.m. the day after. And that was a long trip. And what we can conclude from this trip, what the moral of the story is that despite you having the means to buy the more expensive stuff, money apparently can give you access to better things, to more convenient things, but it does not guarantee happiness. It does not guarantee comfort. And still, I would rather have it than not. But there are far more factors which influence your happiness and your trip and your survival than simply buying the more expensive flight. And I think that's a great ending point. What a moral of the story. And with that, guys, I want to say thank you all so much for listening and for joining me this week. I hope to see you next week as well. But until then, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye!